Seahawks gear until about a week ago. But spring training starting.
Yep.
So Mariners gear coming soon. It's a great year to be a Seattle fan. And we might get the Sonics back. I'm trying not to say it too much because people are superstitious, but I think we got it. But yeah, it's been a little while. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing good, bro.
Life's good?
Good
All is well?
Yes,
likewise. Speaking of spring, we're just going to jump right into it. So I kind of overview the topics that we're going to talk about. So anybody tapping in right now, give you a little bit of a context so you hang out. We're going to go over listing launches. We're coming into the spring selling season. We've got some recent mortgage data of where things are at now versus 3 years ago. Everybody's talking about how rates are as low as they've been over the last 3 years. But what does that mean and what's that ratio look like? Inventory rising, what does that truly mean? Builders taking the market share. I know a lot of us looking at buyers who are looking at resale properties are feeling that pinch. And then investors as well that are quietly returning back into the market. What markets are hot? I know there's a lot of our coastal clients. We work with a lot of relocation down here in Dallas. So whether you're in California, Washington, New York, on the seaboards, and you're looking at reinvesting that money, especially with the potential taxes coming in, there's great ways that you can do that. And we have a broad network, Brandon and I, not only in DFW, but a nationwide network to support you with that. And then we'll go over some hot topics at the end, given time.
Man.
So
let's go.
Jumping right into it, the first point, we're going into spring selling season. And I think we've discussed this before, where you've got the common coaching strategy is you got 14 days to make it count.
Yep.
And according to sources, including National Association of Realtors and Zillow Listing Insights, 65 to 70% of listing views happen in the first 14 days, and early price cuts can reduce the final sale price of 2 to 4%. So the strategy that they're basically talking about here is how can you make those first 14 days count so that you're not starting to slash the price prematurely and causing a loss of interest and a level of concern where people are like, what's going on with the house? So what's your 14-day flow look like? How true is this to you, and how do you adapt to this?
I think it's very true, man. Honestly, I mean, I'll push back a little bit. I'll probably say 14 to 21 days because the listing is still hot. I think Zillow pushes it out too within the first 14 days, like, hey, here's a new listing, right? Mm-hmm. But really, if you look at it as a buyer's perspective, if you see something that's on the shelf for too long, you start to wonder what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
It may be the nicest thing ever, but man, that thing's been sitting there for 40 days, 45 days, 30 days. Like, there should be something wrong with it. They think there could be nothing wrong with your house, right? But the name of the game is how do I deliver the most attractive product in the most reasonable time to where I'm maximizing the exposure from the algorithms, people's perceptions, and how are we targeting that? Just facts like this, and just if you do a good job presenting the data to your clients, hopefully they know.
Yeah.
What I hear a lot too is what I don't recommend is, hey, what happens if we list high and go low?
Yeah.
That is going to be one of the worst strategies ever. I will call it out right now. I am sorry, but that is not a good strategy because what's going to happen is you're not going to get any showings, man.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to drop the price,
Yep.
drop the price again, and be lower than what was initially,
Yep.
I guess, presented. And I say that respect to everyone's equity. I'm not in your pockets. I'm not here to make sure you lose money, but if you're coming to me with a duty to do something, I'm going to give you the facts, and here's my facts and opinions.
I like that.
What do you think, man?
I respect that. No, that's very true. And to take that a step further, I like to break down when I'm meeting with my clients. So I had a listing appointment with somebody yesterday, and everybody said, well, what's the fair market value of the home? And the reality is, yes, we'll do a CMA, we'll present a comparative market analysis, but with how readily available information is now, y'all are seeing 90% of the data we're seeing. If you go on Zillow and Redfin and this and this and this and all the other websites out there and look at all the homes that are active, all the homes that you can see sold if the data is public, the only thing you can't really do that we have access to is leveraging our network. That's where us as agents come into the play. Is we're able to reach out to those agents that have homes under contract, reach out to brokers that have more insights and market data, and we can go and basically look at public records and other sources that are not publicly available to fill the gap. The point being is, if we agree that your home is within a range of $750,000 to $800,000, we're not splitting hairs there. What my job is, and the approach I take, Brandon, is I want to start, number one, what your bottom line is. How much do you need to make on this home for it to be worth your time to let go of the asset? And the other extreme is, how sweet can the pot get, right? What is the top value property that we've seen? Because you and I know, and our clients, obviously, respectfully, it's your equity, it's your property. You want to sell it for top dollar. I want to protect your investment. And we've got to find a middle ground somewhere in between there
Yeah.
without causing too much of a fright where you price the home too high and then you're slashing. So let's kind of go through that scenario before we move on to the next subject. Let's pretend you're in a situation where somebody says, no, I really, really want to try to sell top dollar, Brandon. I understand what you're saying, and I'm confident in your ability, and you're going to do everything you can, but I need to get every penny I can out of it. How do you talk down from that, or give them what they want with a contingency on there?
Well, I just give them the option, like, hey, do you want to start here, or do you want to start here? You'll have the most eyes on your property here, and probably get a chance of multiple offers, getting more terms on your terms, right? Or do you want to make it a little out of reach and make people have to find a reason to buy the house?
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, I can advise you as much, but it's your dollars as your property. I'm not going to say no, but there is going to be some stipulations we talk about, like, hey, if there's nothing happening within the next 14 days, we already know what the next step is. Hey, you got to drop the price. Or we'll get feedback from folks too and be like, hey, folks who have shown it, what do you think about the price? And we present it to them and let them make the decision, right? But I think the conversation needs to be held up front. And going back to, if you want top dollar, if that first step doesn't work, here's the next lever we have to try. Because otherwise, you're wasting time, and time is money. The more time you put your houses on the market, you're not going to get top dollar. You know, and it kind of goes back to it as well. Like, are you sure you want to sell now?
Yeah.
That's the question, right?
Yeah. That's a very honest feedback. I like that. So are you going to chase the market, or do you want to make the market chase you?
Exactly.
Like
See, bro, you always know a way of making it smooth, man.
Barney simple. We got to make it Barney simple. All right.
Go.
So next one, we're talking about interest rates and the mortgage divide. So I think headline news for the last week has been we dropped under 6. Everybody's talking about, shout out to Ricky Caruth. He did his signature. I saw the background. I said, ooh, mortgage rates are under 6%. I told y'all this was going to happen. I appreciate you, Ricky, waking us up early and getting us going. But that being said, sources here are FHFA and Redfin. So right now, we are seeing a shift where you have the same number or a larger percentage of active borrowers, people who have a mortgage, they currently own a property, they've been approved for a mortgage, so they're in that buy box, of people who are over 6% and under 3%. So this morning, an article came out where they said less than 20% of homeowners are locked into a mortgage rate under 3%.
Yeah.
More than 21% are at 6% or higher. Initial feedback on that.
I think this is what comes into play, man. Lifestyle changes, because what? Those below 3 interest rates were like 2021. It's 2026 now. Some people are having kids, so they need a bigger spot. So they're having to let go of that 3% under, 3% interest rate to get to a higher interest rate, but something that's more suitable for their families. I think lifestyle changes have to a big factor into that, because no one wants to get rid of that interest rate, man. You know? So I think that's what's happening, in my opinion, because I had helped 2 families within the past year that let go of their interest rate because they were growing families, right? I think that's coming to play, man. But what do you think?
No, I think it's powerful, and that's a very, very similar conversation I'm having is, why are you buying the home? See, if you're buying a property, now we always talk about, don't pay somebody else's mortgage, or you're building equity and wealth by buying instead of renting. Well, that's still true, whether it's a 3%, 4%, 6%, 8%. If you have a 10% interest rate, and back in my day in the 90s, right? I didn't buy properties in the 90s, I'm not that old. But there was a time where it still made sense, right? Why are you buying the home? The primary reason has to be for your life, whether it's your family, whether it's where you want to live, whether it's because you just don't want to pay rent. There needs to be a why behind it. If you're just chasing the interest rate, you're not going to win that battle, because it could always be better. It could always be sweeter. Now, we have to balance that with reality, and that's where I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago. We went through the R's, right? So if the rate is going up, do you want to wait and refinance it? Well, that's a gamble. Obviously, those people, and I sincerely apologize if you were advised this way. It wasn't from me. It wasn't from Brandon. Yeah, just lock in at 6.7, and in a year you can refinance. There's no guarantee.
Call it marry the house, date the rate, or something?
Yeah,
right?
date
That's
the rate, marry the house. But then you end up with a Hollywood divorce. So
Yeah.
we don't want to do that. Be realistic. it's a possibility. Maybe you can buy down the equity. There are different ways that you can lower the rate. There are ways to refinance. There's benefit there. I'm not saying it's a complete fallacy, but I would never set that as a precedence, as an expectation on why you should buy a property. The second thing is you could just keep renting and wait. Well, that's just going to cost you money because, again, you're gambling. There's no guarantee. The only thing that has worked for me and for my clients when I'm advising them is reset your expectations. Yeah. Kind of sucks, but guess what? You're still buying property. You're still doing what so many Americans would dream to be able to do. So maybe you got to reset expectations. Maybe you're not 5 minutes away from where you live, work, and play. You're 15 minutes away, and that's okay because it's going to get you the home you want for your family. So I think resetting expectations is critical, and that's where you and I come in.
Yeah, and just setting expectations up front. You know, like, this is what it is. Can you afford it at today's interest rate? If yes, and you're okay with it, then what's holding you back?
No, I like that. That's powerful. Speaking of people moving and shaking and all things going around, we were chatting about little suburbs that spiked and then kind of clawed back, and now they're coming back on the market, but we don't really know what it's going to look like because you have, now that the buyer expectation is being reset with the interest rates, seller expectation is having to reset a bit as well. So inventory rising but still tight. So this is coming from Realtor.com housing report at Texas A&M Real Estate Center. Low key is slept on source. Amazing, amazing data. Shout out to Texas A&M. I actually have their magazine. Yeah, I read their magazine. Yeah, back in my day. So inventory stat trigger here. We got inventories up 15 to 20% year over year, but it's still 35% below 2019 levels. And in DFW right now, the supply is still under 4 months. So using recency bias, buyers have more leverage now because there is more inventory. Yeah. So it's not like the only house on the block is for sale. But desirable neighborhoods are still competitive. And I've seen this where I've gone up to, again, picking on Princeton today just because they're going through so much strangeness with their residential moratorium and then it happening and not happening and builders coming in and corporate buyers buying up blocks. But when you go in a neighborhood in Princeton where people are buying out houses for less than $250,000 cash, you got 6 out of 8 homes on the block for sale. But then if you go to some of the more desirable neighborhoods in McKinney, Frisco, Allen, certain parts of Plano as well, it's still a waiting list to get into certain neighborhoods, right, where the schools are top notch and so on. So what are your thoughts on inventory? How's that impacting your clients' buying or selling decision?
Well, I mean, I just want to catch on to what you were saying before, like these desirable neighborhoods, man. I have a listing. So we went under contract. Oh, this is actually going to tie back to the first piece where we talked about, overpricing. So we were listed at $399. 21 days after, we did a price drop of $15K. So we're listed at $385. We got multiple offers, right, above asking price.
Look at that.
All right.
It works.
And then, throughout the contract, not due to inspection, any of that stuff, but buyers terminated. So boom, we're back on the market again, right? Okay. But within 5 days, bro, we got multiple offers again. That's above asking price. So depending on the area, people are moving, especially if you have families. People want good school districts. I just help another buyer go into contract right now because they want to stay in Allen. Good school districts play a big factor in how fast a house sells and for how much a house sells. Compare it to, not picking on Princeton, but I mean, I think there's a lot of things going on with Princeton itself. It's a very there's a lot of new builds there, so it's harder to sell a pre-owned existing home in a spot where a builder is still building. But any of these hot cities, man, that you name, if it's priced correctly, the house looks good, people are going to want to buy the house.
I love that you pointed that sweet spot out because you never know how close you are to it, right? So if you test the market, my sincere advice, again, no offense to anybody, don't let your ego get in the way. If you know that you've been sitting on the market and it's that 21-day market and you make that $15K cut, it could flip like that. And I love that you're saying you're seeing multiple offers come back into the market. That's awesome to hear. I'm praying for that for my clients too. I've had a couple with multiple verbal offers, but I haven't had like multiple offers coming in. That's going to be a beautiful day. Then we're back. Then we'll officially say we're back.
You know what? I'll say something about that though, man. I kind of hate it just a little bit because I hate being the one to deliver the news. Hey, man, we selling one to the other side. Yeah, like I have empathy, guys. Yeah. Right? I'm a girl dad.
That is. I haven't had to have that conversation in a while though. So you're right. It's I've forgotten what that feels like. And look at that smooth transition. So we've got a topic on here that will tie right into builders and investors back to back. So U.S. Census housing starts, they're talking about builders taking market share. So as of right now, and I know this is especially true, Salina, Prosper, up in the north, like north of 121 here, builders are taking up about 30% or more of home sales because they're offering rate buy downs, closing incentives, and right now the Dallas market's one of the top in the U.S. For permits for new starts. And what that's doing is effectively making builders the largest discount brokers, and they're competing directly with people who are resellers. So my thoughts on this, I want to kind of throw double tap on this. Number one, how are you competing with those rate buy downs and those closing? Are you presenting and packaging your listing offerings for a resale property differently? And part two of that is, how are you tapping into those new builds?
That's a loaded question, man. If I'm competing, I guess, are you asking how am I, let's say if I'm...
How are you fighting fire with fire? And then how are you putting out their fire by jumping on board with them? It's kind of like you're almost playing both sides, where you got to compete with them for your sellers, but you've got to advocate with them for your buyers.
Yeah, it just depends. It goes back to everyone's situation, man. Like if I'm taking a listing in a predominantly new build neighborhood, I'm going to be straight up with them. You're competing against big bucks, corporations. They're giving X, Y, and Z. You got X, Y, and Z. So why does someone buy your property? What can you give them? Either closing costs up front, or you got to lower the price to compete. So that's how I'm just telling them, like, hey, this is how you're going to fight fire with fire, because it's going to be difficult, right? As far as me helping the buyers out, the same, hey, man, do you want lower closing costs, lower monthly payments, and a brand new house with warranty? Are you okay with driving an extra 15 minutes? Boom, there you go.
Yeah.
It all comes down to the person's situation, man. So I don't put a blanket statement on it, but
that's fair.
It's whatever that person's wants and needs are, and can I help them fill the gap?
Right.
And I'll let them make the decision then.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, it's definitely tricky because you don't want to naysay because you got a buyer that wants that brand new property, but then you got a seller that needs to sell the property. And I'm in this with 3 different people right now. It's one that's trying to rent a property they just bought, another that's trying to sell a property they just bought. They have to move back to the West Coast, and it's only halfway completed, the subdivision. So there's so much more being developed. So I'm like, if you sell, you have to undercut.
Yeah.
And the tough part is with some of these areas, and this is really important to consider if you're buying in a market and you intend to rent, you got to find out if there's a rental cap for 2 reasons. Number one, will you be allowed to rent? Because now, I don't know if you've seen this up in Aubrey, there's a few subdivisions. If you go up 423 and just keep going up higher, cross over 380 and you go into like the nooks up there past Hollyhock and you go up into Aubrey, there's subdivisions being built out there where and I never heard of this until this happened. You're from Texas, you probably know this better than I do. Written in the deed, there is a non-rental clause. So basically when the parcel of land was sold to the builder, it was written in that you cannot turn this into rental properties. So you are not allowed, it's only for ownership, only for development, for homes for sale. Wow. So they basically have a 0% rent cap. So if you buy a property there, you are not allowed to rent. Some places there's a waiting period, you have to live there for a year.
Yeah.
Other places it's a percentage. That's actually really common in Seattle, where it's like, hey, we got a 20% rent cap. Then there's a wait list after that. But going into some of these areas, you got one extreme where you can never rent, which isn't great if that's in your mind down the road. And you got the other extreme where it's just Wild West. And that's one of my clients right now that owns a property and they're trying to rent it. And they were told, obviously, by the builder that the rental amount is on average like $2,000 a month.
This is why you need representation, guys, before you go to a new build.
Block. Yeah, he called me after he bought it and then called me to rent it out. And I was like, I should have been there buying it with you, because the builder told him $2,000 a month is the average rental. 6 of the 10 homes on the same block that he bought are owned by a corporation, and they're renting all the homes out for $1,700. So he's like, hey, how much do you think we can rent the house out for? And I was like, $1,650 or less. He's like, why? I said, because there's 6 houses on the same block renting at $1,700.
They look just like yours.
It's the same thing. So you got to make sure that you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Call Brandon or myself.
Let's go.
We could definitely help with that. And on that same note, I think a smooth switch over is investors returning into the market space. So this is sourced out of Redfin. Shout out to Redfin and CoreLogic, who have the data. They're kind of the hub. So the stats here are investor purchases are up 5 to 8% year over year. It's national data. Sunbelt markets leading activity. DFW is still a top migration market. Come on down. And the long-term housing shortage is causing investors to buy before rate cuts. So because investors are looking at this from the perspective of this isn't where I'm going to raise my family, the school districts aren't as critical for me, I'm not afraid to refinance in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years because this is a buy and hold play for me. I'm parking my cash here instead of a savings account or a bond. They're looking at it purely from the ones and zeros. Are you seeing a large percentage of your buyer base shift to investors? Are you seeing existing homeowners become investors, or are they all outsiders coming in saying, I want to buy a property?
To be honest, man, before, most of the investors I was working with were flippers. But I recently started, I don't want to say opening up a portfolio, but I've been making a very, God, I can't talk today. I've been doing a lot of research on single family homes, rent rates and all that stuff, right? I'm finding a lot of more of my investors now for the buying side going into new constructions because they're taking advantage of the same opportunities that some of these primary homeowners would get. You know, like if you're looking at an investor, you want to know, okay, hey, what's my ROI? What's the less money I can put down? If I'm going to these builders, they're offering closing costs paid for. They're still offering you a discount rate. It's not going to be the same as a primary homestead, right? But you're still getting a discounted interest rate. When you look at that, it's like, well, hey, wait a minute. I had to bring less to the table. I am getting an interest rate as below than what I can get from, let's say, an outside lender, mortgage broker. And the comp support the rental rate where I'm actually cash flowing, if not breaking even in the appreciating area. That's where I'm getting most of my investors to go to. They're looking for single family. Like we just got one locked up last week, and they're one of the first. They're buying in the first phases.
Nice.
So
Guaranteed appreciation. Yeah.
And so I'm seeing them come back. One of my other investors too, he does duplexes. He's reached out like, hey, I'm ready to buy some stuff, but it's all because I am putting the marketing material out for said investments. And when I say marketing material, I'm actually doing the research, right? I'm compiling all this stuff, throwing it into Claude, and making the infographic look clean. I'm looking through and making sure everything looks fine, and I send it out. So I am seeing investors hopping back into the space, purchasing where it makes sense. Because if it doesn't make sense, there's no reason why you should buy it, and I will tell people don't buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Powerful. Let's finish it with a hot take. I want an opinion. Now this is going to kind of bring all of this together, right? We talked about investors, we talked about listings, buyers, sellers, and the whole caboodle, as they say. So a hot take here is, do you believe rate cuts are going to push prices higher? And if so, when do you think that'll start happening?
We're in a weird little spot right now, man, because with the whole thing going on with the world, either investors are buying bonds because they're scared, but also with the oil prices rising, now you're fighting inflation. So when investors buy bonds, the interest rates are supposed to go down, but yet we have inflation coming too because oil is going up. So I think we're kind of two forces acting at once. I don't know, man. I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. But if interest rates go down, I think prices should go up. Correct me if I'm wrong, man. I don't know.
No, I think eventually they will.
Yeah.
I think the goal is they will, and we've heard that from Treasury, we've heard that from the Fed, we've heard that from the government, is that the goal is home values to go back up. We don't want homeowners who have equity to lose that equity with prices going down. I don't think that's anybody's intention. However, with all the other variables you just mentioned, I think the timing of this is perfect because I think right now it'll just allow us to skate by.
Yeah.
It's the rates coming down will save just enough in the affordability for buyers not to just throw their hands up and be like, I can't do it. Because affordability has not improved significantly, at least from the feedback I'm getting from my clients.
Yeah.
Home values have not gone down enough for people to just hoard the market. So I think the interest rates coming down, it's just going to take the edge off a little bit.
Yeah.
It's going to allow those, when we talk about resetting expectations, it's a soft reset, not a hard reset. A year ago when we were playing in the sevens, that was a hard reset of expectations. Like, yeah, do you really need all those bedrooms in a whole yard with a tree, right? How do you feel about a shared driveway, right?
Yeah.
So it's you're really having to, you were resetting everything. Like, how do we how can we put this piece of the puzzle together? I don't think we're at that point anymore, thankfully. And with rates coming down, I think it'll allow it'll keep the edge off.
Yeah.
And then, yes, God willing, we'll get to a point where it'll improve the home values and you'll see buyers confidently enter the market. I think right now it'll keep the buyer base in the market and you'll trickle in new buyers, but eventually we'll see a high influx. My opinion, again, no crystal ball, but I don't think it's wise to assume that there's going to be this flood. I know a lot of people are like, rates are down, people are going to flood the market. Some markets, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some markets where the dam will just break open. But I think in general, for most people, just with the concern, whether it's financial or just in general mental stability right now, people are just saying, hey, do I want to make any sudden moves? This will be enough justification to do so. And I think on the seller side, right, we both got active listings right now. Right when the rate drop happened, I called my sellers and I said, hey, if we can coincide even just to scrape a little bit off, you don't have to slash 10% off your list price. But if we can time this and bring attention to your listing right now, we double tap and it's going to be peaked, and it worked out perfectly.
Nice.
So we had property in Irving we have listed right now. We had 2 to 3 showings a week for the first 3 weeks it was on the market. Over this past weekend, we've had 12 people walk the property.
Yeah. Nice.
Because rate came down, we made a slight price reduction. We had back-to-back open houses. Just layer it up.
Yep.
So.
Hire professional, y'all.
Yes, there you go. Reach out. Appreciate y'all joining us. Brandon's been great about keeping this accountable, so we do intend to continue to tap in with you guys on a weekly basis.
Yep.
What will help us a lot is if you drop a comment and just share what you want us to discuss. Doesn't have to be about houses or even particular real estate, because when we're making these decisions with our clients, we're trying to encompass every piece of data out there. So whether it's the financial market, the economic market, and we do intend to bring on guest speakers from our network as well. So if there's a specific topic you'd like to have covered or you want to learn more about, whether it's a widget or something regarding commercial, residential real estate, investment, tax strategy, we'll bring them in, we'll bring it to you and have that conversation. So
Let's go, bro.
cool. Appreciate you. Thanks for
go.
tuning in. Be well.
Gonna get some White Castle.
Oh, I didn't do it.